And we're live. So welcome everyone. So I'm here with my friend David Mansilla. This is Rules for Success. This is our podcast, rulesforsuccess.com. My name is Joseph Varghese. It's great to connect with many of you watching either on our stream or via our website, rulesforsuccess.com. Every week we interview great thought leaders, business leaders, business owners, and really tap into their rules for success, especially those who have gone and have an extraordinary journey. And I'm excited because today I get to interview my friend David Mansilla. David's an author. His book is called Breaking Out of the Corporate Jail, Find Your Freedom. Just launched recently. It's already a bestseller, so excited. Congratulations, David, on the success of that so far. And yes, David is a business owner based in Canada. His company's called ISU Corp, and he's a software developer background, and his company focuses on software development. We got connected through one of our mutual friends, Anil Gupta, and David and Anil are part of a larger mastermind community of extraordinary leaders who travel around the world and have quality experiences with some of the great thought leaders, including Tony Robbins. So David, how are you today, my friend?
I'm wonderful, thank you. And thanks for inviting me to your show.
Of course, my pleasure. And I've been digging into your book recently. I haven't finished it completely, but I really admire your journey, and I'm looking forward to finishing your book too as well. I really admire your journey, going from South America to Canada, establishing a business, becoming an entrepreneur. That whole journey. Well, tell us. So, what got you to become an entrepreneur? So, I know your book is about the corporate world, and there are lessons you learned from your many years in the corporate world that you brought into entrepreneurship. But what got you on that journey toward being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so my father, before he passed away, ran about 7 businesses, different businesses throughout his life. So from my father's side, I had a strong entrepreneurial influence. However, I was brought up by my grandfather, and my grandfather was very conservative. He was a chartered accountant. Before that, he was an engineer, a civil engineer. He moved careers to something even more conservative, to accounting. So my grandfather always taught us to be humble, to be thankful, and to have a job and enjoy life in a humble way. For the contrary, my dad was always reinventing himself. He will make a business, sell it, or he will go bankrupt and make another business his entire life. Until he finally passed away 3 years ago. But he was a person with a lot of success and a lot of failure. And I believe my dad inspired us. We are 5 siblings and all of us have our own businesses. So he really inspired us to become independent.
Are you all entrepreneurs, you and your siblings?
Yes, 5 siblings were all entrepreneurs. And in fact, one of our most successful siblings in business is my older brother. He's 10 years older than me. And he really was the catalyst for me to start up my own business. I remember asking him because going into business is a big decision, especially if you have a high-end paying job. Yeah. I call it corporate jail in 10 years because my job was amazing. It was paying great. I had an amazing team. My reputation was incredible, but also I felt trapped. I felt trapped because I knew that there was a company inside me that wanted to get expressed, but I was so worried. And so whatever we could go wrong. And I had failed a couple of times in businesses before myself. So that delayed my exit into the business world far too long. I should have done it a lot faster. But my brother was one of the inspirations that I had because he had never had a job. He graduated from college back home in Guatemala, and then he had a job for about 6 months. He became a manager for distribution for a beer company, and then he moved to Canada, went to business school, and he never ever had a job in Canada. Wow. Now he's been running his business for over 35 years, very successful, but his ups and downs were terrible. And I was watching his suffering, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't jump into a business. But at the end of the day, I went and had a coffee with him, and I said, I'm ready. What's your advice? And he basically said, if you can grow your emotional stability so that you can go through hell without being too much worried, you're gonna make it. It's all about how you handle your nerves. How do you handle your emotional feelings and your stability? And he was completely right.
Got it.
Because he guaranteed me that I was going to have very lows and very highs. And that's exactly what happened.
So you had some exceptional role models throughout that journey. I mean, you met your dad, your grandfather, especially more. My dad was a civil engineer too, so it was all about structure. It was a big part of our household as well. And then, of course, your siblings, your brothers. It's fantastic. So what about that? So you saw their successes or failures, the challenges that came about that. Something must have happened there that showed you that I could do this as well also, right? I could step in. And of course you had that mentorship. So you mentioned your brother sat you down and talked to you about resilience, right? And being able to really step things up when the times are tough. I'm sure there have been some tough times during the years. Am I correct?
Oh, definitely. So it was funny because he was always teasing me. He saw me fail in my first business. And then I quickly went and got a job and I started really excelling in the corporate world. By the way, I'm not against corporations. The book is called Breaking Out of Corporate Jail, but I have a corporation, ISU Corp, right? Yes. Corporations are here to bless the world. I'm just talking about people that feel trapped because they know they have something else inside that they need to express their own business, right?
Yes.
So I started to notice a pattern. So I grew really quickly in the corporate ladder. So I started as a middle developer because I was running my own business. They took that into account as experience. And then when I got hired as a middle developer, I quickly became a senior architect. Then I went to development manager. Then I went to VP of development for bigger companies. And I started to notice a pattern. Every 2 years, I will get really bored because I will completely transform the IT department in a company and I will run myself out of a job. Thank God I never got let go. But I had to move to another business because I was completely bored. Because I managed to delegate everything and to create a great culture and to run the department automatically without me. So then I will go into another business with more challenges, and then my salary kept growing too, right? Bigger businesses, bigger challenges. But I noticed a pattern where, number one, I wasn't made to have a long-term job. Every 2 years, I was jumping jobs anyway. Number two, I knew I could do it better. A lot of the times I had to fight with the rules, with HR, and I understand why the rules are out there. But for example, we were always trying to attract better development talent. And sometimes I knew that I could go outside of Canada and US, maybe, Latin America or Europe. And I was never allowed to do that. Remember though, like this is early 2000s, right? So it's a different world from now. But I knew I could do it because I came from one of those countries.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the first thing that I did, one of my last jobs, is I actually started. I told the VP, I told him, I'm going to hire people from other countries in Canada with no Canadian experience. And if they fail, I'll quit. And he told me, okay, because this is the only way I can allow you to do this, right?
Yeah.
Because back then, if you didn't have at least 5 years Canadian experience as a software engineer, you will not get a job in Canada in the software world. So I started hiring guys based on their foreign experience, and they became rock stars.
Amazing.
Actually, some of them are still where they are. Like they're still like one of those guys he volunteered with us for 1 year.
Wow.
Zero payment.
Wow.
Hire. And when I left, I gave him my job. Now he's the senior director for software development for this huge conglomerate because this company merged 5 times and now they are multinational. And he's still there.
You have an exceptional work ethic. That's what occurs to me as well. And I've heard that most of the millionaires, wealthiest people in this country tend to be those born in other countries. Right? I don't know the exact statistic. It's certainly over 50%. And it occurs to me, I'm sure you're encouraged at a young age to really step up. Of course, having multiple siblings in the household and so forth. I'm sure there are certain choices, right? You were encouraged by your dad, 7 businesses you mentioned, and your grandfather, a structural engineer. Well, tell us about that. So, like, what are some virtues and values that you live by personally? And how have those virtues and values like shifted over the years? Because I know that you've also immersed yourself into lots of growth work, being part of extraordinary masterminds, going through trainings with Tony Robbins. So where were those values before, and how do they shift as you delve deeper into personal growth work?
Yeah, definitely. So at the beginning, when you start a business, all you need to do is stay above the water. And you don't even care about your values, honestly. Well, I didn't anyway. I just care about making my first sale and start paying the rent and start paying employees. And it's very hard. So the problem with that is that you may have had good values before, but because you're into fight mode, you don't know what you're doing. You completely lose focus on what matters and you just focus on growth. If you allow that growth to get ingrained in your heart, eventually you're going to have a collapse, which is what happened to me, right? Because I was trying to survive at the beginning and put so much effort in marketing, sales, engineering, that I forgot the human side. So throughout, within 5 years, I grew exponentially, but then I became money focused instead of being values focused. And then that created a huge problem in my life to the point that I almost died. I had a heart attack. So when that happened, something came to me and I realized that I was the maker of my own problems. So I started looking into professional and personal development. The first thing that I did was taking a leadership course. It's almost like a postgraduate degree for engineers that want to become CEOs and VPs. I have my own business. I was the only guy there with my own business, but I made beautiful friends. I'm still talking to them to today, and they took us through this. Throughout this year, they go through this. They take you through this self-discovery pattern where you have to become a leader of yourself before you can lead somebody else, and then you become a leader of a tribe, and then hundreds of people, then thousands of people, right? So they prepare you to be the CEO of multinationals there. And it really helped me because that's what I noticed that is me. I was so focused on me and I was not a good leader. I was basically a dictator, right? I was a tyrant.
Yeah.
So I was even surprised that I still had a business after that training course. But the course opened my mind and I realized I also need to change my values. I need to start looking to add value to the world, to the people that I'm working with. The value doesn't come to me first. The value has to go to the people that I work with, my employees and my clients, and then the value comes back to me. So my values today is completely different. I started going with Tony Robbins about 3 years ago. Now I have multiple places where I grow. And the more I grow, the more I realize everything is about gratitude. Everything is about growth. Everything is about contribution. Growth is very important because without growth, you cannot contribute. The more you grow, the more you can give back. So now my values are completely different. And it's all about making this world a better place. And the funny part is that if you look at my net worth, as soon as I change my values, my net worth started increasing. So the thing that I was going after, I lost by having no values. And when I changed my mind and I created new values, the byproduct is wealth.
Did you get, is it a matter of tapping into abundance, or were you more resourceful in the sense that you're able to see the bigger picture and scale things faster because of that? So what happened in that shift? This is 3 years, so this is all very recent.
It's changing focus. When you focus on money, you're going to get the money, but you're going to destroy everything else.
Yeah.
When you focus on adding value, money is a byproduct of the value that you add. So every morning up to today, I wake up and I tell my creator, please allow me to add massive value to the world today. How can I help? How can I make people become abundant in every aspect of their life? And just by doing that, the money just comes and shows up. It's incredible. And you're happy too, which is the most important part. Fulfilled, happy. That's why I wrote the book, right?
Yeah. Wonderful. You mentioned your morning. So are there any morning rituals, routines, things you take on each day to, let's say, prime yourself, the idea of getting your mind in motion, engaged as you start your day and also as you end your day? Any specific rituals, practices you have you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, so I've been fine-tuning my morning routines. I think it's one of the most important factors in my success. When I went through my first transformation back in 2013, my routine was very different, but it was needed because I was in panic mode. I was in emergency. I needed to rebuild myself. So in 2013, I will wake up, have breakfast, hit the gym for 3-4 hours. And those hours will spend in personal development, listening to people like Joel Osteen, Andy Stanley, Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, everything I could consume through Audible. And then I will go to the office and then go back home, and that will be fine. After I was able to have my first couple transformations, now I'm in a place where I can have a relaxed lifestyle. I can have growth with effortless ease. So my routine is much different now. What I do is I wake up in the morning. The first thing that I do is I read a positive book. And I have 7 positive books, and I just go over the 7 books of them throughout the year, and then I keep going back to the same thing, because now I know that repetition is the mother of all skills. So this book sets me in a positive mood. I don't need anything at all anymore. Then I get to my office. Before I get to my office, I do a 15-minute abundance meditation, and also read at least 3 pages of a business book, any business book that I think it will actually help on my business. Right after I meditate, I come to my office, and then I hit the walking desk. This has just happened because of this virus, but now I actually walk and work on a walking desk. And I don't eat, usually I start eating until 4 or 5 p.m. So I do about 16 to 20 hour fasting every day.
Amazing.
And that's fantastic. It's incredible.
Yes. Who knew intermittent fasting could be that powerful? We most of us have a certain addiction to food, where we need to have food. I also follow similar routine as well, also including fasting as well. Also, fantastic. Got it. How do you define success, David? So I'm sure success shifted over the years. You mentioned before it was about money. You got burned out. The heart attack happened at some point. Now, how do you see what success is for you? How do you define what is success for you?
So let me start by saying that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. For me, success goes hand in hand with your level of happiness. And that's individual. Everybody have happiness triggers that are different from anybody else. For me, to be successful, I had to have abundance in every area of my life, in my spirituality, in my relationships, in my finances, for sure, in my health. Every single area has to be abundant. Or if it's not abundant right now, at least I have to be working towards the path of abundance in every area of my life. And that's what I define success. It's not measured on how much is your net worth. What do you care if you have $100 billion if you're a miserable person?
Right.
I'd rather be a Buddhist monk and be completely fulfilled with no material possessions than being the richest person in the world. It makes no sense. But guess what? Throughout the years, I have learned to realize that you don't have to choose. You can have the abundance wealth with the abundance in fulfillment. That's what my life is all about, actually. I'm changing my life to start to focus to start teaching and mentoring people on how to achieve those two things, right? Fulfillment and abundance, and material abundance.
Amazing. I mean, of course, your book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail, is one strategy. And then also you have a podcast called Breaking Free. Is that correct?
Yes, that's about to come out. It's in the works.
Awesome. We'll make sure our audience has links to both of that on the podcast link, rulesforsuccess.com. Something else I'm very curious about, and really I have a lot of respect for you on this, especially also Anil, too, our mutual friend. You've been married for 30 years, am I correct?
Yeah, right? I'll be 31 in August. Yeah,
we're kind of the same age. I started much later in life myself, and I'm in awe. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs. They get the hustle, the grind, and they ignore that aspect of life, their partnership, right? And I feel partnership is everything. Being in the right partnership. If you're in the right partnership, you can exponentially grow, because we're all mirrors of each other. What are your thoughts about partners, specific in marriage, and like what have been some of your keys to success? 30 years, 31 years in marriage. What are some keys to your success with that? I'm very curious.
I wish I could tell you all these amazing things that kept us together, but it's been literally about 4 miracles. I should have been divorced at least 3-4 times. So the miracles came in the form of resilience, my wife being an angel and allowing me to go on a completely different path and ignoring her and my kids for many, many years when I was growing the business. Like I said, I should have been divorced many times, and most of the times it was my fault. Having said that, though, I apply myself on how to change the relationship. For example, after my heart attack, the first thing that I told my wife is, please get all the kids out of school. They were teenagers back then, and let's go to another place. I need to disconnect from this toxic environment that I built. I apologize for the last 4 years that I wasn't with them. Actually, I did not see them. When I was in Canada, I will go home at midnight and will leave at 5 a.m. again. And that was my routine when I was in Canada, because I was usually 3 weeks away from the country out of a month. So completely neglect. But I was humble enough to apologize when I realized what I was doing. We went away for a month to Thailand. I left my laptop, my cell phone. I was willing to go bankrupt. I didn't care anymore. When you don't care anymore about the money, that's when everything starts flourishing. Because for me, was recovering my wife and my kids was the most important part. And since that day, we had a lot of problems still, but I was so focused on growing my relationship with my family that allowed the space to start finding each other's problems and start growing and start asking for, looking for help. Exactly. And today we couldn't be more in love. We couldn't be more engaged with each other. She is my life partner, and she's the reason why I'm so successful, actually.
I get that. Fantastic. And it's my wife behind me kind of walking in as well.
Yes,
also.
hi, how are you?
So 1 second.
Yes, hello.
Hold on a second. I apologize for that. My wife's an amazingly beautiful physician and brilliant, and we do things as a team. And I see that also with you and your wife as well, also with regard to all of that. And so fantastic, really fantastic, very inspiring. And she's resilient as well, also, like being on point with you and your journey as well, also different phases of being an entrepreneur. Some great lessons with that, I'd say. And I guess what I'm present to with that, and something you haven't said so much of, there's an element of accountability, I believe, in your life that has you be open to being coachable and to be able to show up and put yourself in situations with other masterminds and leaders over the years to be that humble. Right? And I'm sure part of it also goes to your spiritual background too. I'm sure there's an aspect of that. At the end of each week, my wife and I, we sit down, we pray together. And then there's an element of, in that humility, something shifts for ourselves. What is it for you? So what's allowed you to really tap into that humility on an ongoing basis to be able to make those pivots that you made over the years?
Yeah, so when I went to my leadership course in 2014, one of the things that was clear to me is that it was ego that caused all of the problems, my personal ego. And ego is no more than fear. You generate ego when you're so afraid that you need to exaggerate what you're doing, and you try to put people down in order for the afraid person inside of you to survive. But the problem is you become addicted to ego. And when you're egocentric, you don't learn. You think you know everything, and you think you're the best of the best, and keeps going on and on and on. To give you an example, back then when I was driven by ego, I would fill up my mouth with the amount of employees that I had. Oh, I had 115 employees. That was my, and I wanted to make it to 100,000 employees just to have the ego to say that I was employing so many people without realizing that I was losing money.
Yes.
Now I'm like, I rather have 40 amazing people and quadruple the profits, right? But it's because it was ego driven. So this is one of the things that I fight with myself most of the time, because everything could become egocentric. Everything, even contribution becomes ego. If you contribute in the wrong way, you start helping out and you start bragging about it, right. It becomes ego.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do it. So imagine even giving away unconditionally could become egocentric, and you start messing up your life. So I have something called my ego check. So once a week, I go back in my week and I realize what mistakes did I do and what mistakes was ego responsible. And then I try to make it better and make it better. And by the way, you can never get rid of ego. You can only control it. Because as long as you still feel afraid, which you always will, in different areas of your life, you're going to have that ego trying to protect you. So it's just learning how, first of all, acknowledging that ego is there, learning how to control your ego for your advantage and how to minimize it and put humility in front instead of ego. And by the way, humbleness and being poor are completely different things. You can be completely broke and be super egocentric. And you can be the richest guy in the world and be super humble. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Very, very well said. Some really extraordinary lessons that you've shared here. And I really appreciate hearing that as well also with regard to your journey. And we all need ego checks. For me, it's getting in communication with certain people in my life who remind me of my commitment, my why, and all those things. And I'm really excited to see your journey forward, especially as you're building yourself as an authority, a leader in terms of entrepreneurship and really guiding people on really embracing that path and doing it in such a way where they can embrace humility, make a difference, contribute, and much more in the world, versus the hustle and grind that a lot of entrepreneurs get soaked up into very early on, and burn out very quickly. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Wonderful. So David's book is called Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. You can get it on Amazon this week, because that's actually in discount. So check it out if you're watching this week. Yes. And his website is davidmansilla.com, David, MANSILLA.com. Any final words you want to offer our audience, David, as we close out?
Yeah, no, so at the end of the day, I think you got a couple of golden nuggets out of this presentation. It'll be my pleasure to sit down with anybody of your audience and share a couple of minutes of wisdom and being able to learn from them too. I believe that every person has something to offer. So I'm here to help people change their life towards a fulfilled life and stop wasting time in things that don't matter. So with that, thank you so much, Joseph, for having me. And you can always call me back and I'll be more than glad to help out in whatever I can.
Beautiful. Thank you, my friend. Everyone on Facebook and out there, really appreciate you watching us today. And I'm going to stop the recording momentarily. For everyone else watching us, rulesforsuccess.com, access this interview and also access the mind map summary of this as well. Also, my team will do that very, very soon.